the kind to wear a tie. Button up from 9 to 5. I tried that life but said goodbye. I'm not always polite, but I get the job done. Who says the world can never be fun? I'm simply unprofessional. Simply unprofessional. Yeah. Unprofessional. Yeah. Unprofessional.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Simply Unprofessional. I'm your host, Webby. Joining me tonight, we got Rob.
Hi, everybody.
Rob, it's just us.
Yep.
Devin is feeling under the weather this week.
It's justice.
I don't
Get it? Just us. Justice.
Next week, everybody, it might just be me. Rob, here at Simply us here at Simply Unprofessional wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors.
Okay. It's been a privilege working here, and I will miss the salary and benefits. And
all right, smartass. All right, so hey, let's jump right into it. It's gonna be a short episode. Maybe we'll see. This week we're talking about Fear Street Part 3, 1666 / Fear Street 1994 Part 2. Right? I think it was 94.
well, I know that this one was 16 whatever. 16,
Yeah, but remember how
$16.
near the end of it, they're like, oh, 1994 Part 2.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh god, there's gonna be another one. You're like, no, I think they're doing it right now. Yeah, that's why I put the slash in there. God, keep up with me, Rob. Come on. Anyway, yeah, Fear Street Part 3, 1666. This movie, this particular not really an episode, but this what's the word I'm looking for here? I'll go with episode, I guess. Was all about Sarah Fears, where she grew up, and essentially the start of the quote-unquote evil presence in the town of Unity, I believe it was called, which was then later on divided into Sunnyvale and Shadyside. So, spoiler alert, everybody, if you haven't seen this episode, go watch it. It's on Netflix. In fact, all of it's on Netflix now. So if you haven't seen the first two parts, go watch those. Watch them in order. And, don't try to watch them based off of, year order, because you're going to not know who some of the characters are. You actually got to watch them in the order they are released. It will actually make more sense that way. So, spoiler alert, Rob, you were right the entire fucking time.
Yes, lesbian love story.
No, not that part. God, every time with the lesbians. Rob hates lesbians.
I do not.
I don't know what it is.
This whole thing is a lesbian love story.
Big eye rolls, sitting on the couch, just going, ugh, lesbians.
I was not.
That was pretty much how you sounded. You're like, this movie sucks. It's about lesbians. I have no interest in this movie. Did you or did you not say that? Thing. Yes, you did.
I thought I had no interest in lesbians.
We can go back. We can go back. You sounded disgusted with the movie and completely uninterested when you know what? We will go back and we will listen to part 1 where me and Devin even commented. Where me and Devin actually commented on the fact that you hated this movie because of the lesbians.
Devin said I hated the movie, number 1.
Yes, yes, you most certainly did on the very first episode.
I did not.
You said you
I
hated this movie.
Really enjoy it. I didn't say I hated it. I did not. Let's go. Yeah, let's go back and listen.
You know what? We
will. I'm sure of this. I've been sure that I was not logged into Blizzard.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Because you were thoroughly uninterested in the first movie.
Listeners, if you listen to the first, you know what? Defend me. I never said I hated the movie. And yeah, you know what? I was uninterested in lesbians. I never said anything about the movie. Like no, that said lesbians were uninteresting or whatever you just said.
No, you said you were thoroughly. I was not interested. You said you were thoroughly uninterested, and you did not like or enjoy the very first movie of this. You literally hated the movie. You hated the plot. You hated how the character it made no difference because all the characters ended up dead anyway. Like you thoroughly hated that you came back and you liked the second.
I said I hated the part where the friends got murdered and all their friends were like, "Yeah, okay,
yeah,
let's just blame them for all the murders."
It ruined the movie for you. You had nothing but bad things to say about the first part of this movie.
That is not true.
Name one good thing you liked about the first part of this movie. You even came back to me and you're like, yeah, you really enjoyed the second part way more than the first.
I did enjoy the second part more than the first.
So now tell me what you liked about the first part then, if you didn't hate it.
I
thought the first part of this movie was garbage.
The first part was the beginning, and we wouldn't have had part 2 or 3 without it.
Okay, that's bullshit, and you know it. You can't. You cannot. True. You can. Yeah, no, that is a bullshit. First off, I'm probably picking myself up. No, I'm not. That's good because you're not. Your door's wide open, and I'm yelling now, but I don't hear me coming through my own headset, so that's good. Anyway, it's a bullshit excuse. And whatnot for what I just asked you, because I asked you specifically about the first movie, and the only thing you could come up with is, well, without the first one, we wouldn't have had the other two, I guess. Wow, what a zinger on that one, Rob.
I liked the pun where she tied her up in the phone cord and said she's not feeling herself. Or whatever.
That wasn't a pun. But that wasn't a pun.
I know it wasn't a pun, but it made me laugh. There you go.
You are all over the place. What kind of drugs are you on this week, Rob?
I'm not drugs.
Are you sure? Because you are sleep deprived.
Blood pressure medicine, and that is all.
You must be sleep deprived or something, because you have not been yourself this week as far as your mental faculties. I'll say that. I'm staring at your door while I say this.
Did you want me to close it?
No, I'm just staring in case you give me the evil eye through your doorway or something. So, yeah, exactly. Just like that. Just like that. Anyway...
Yeah, that does not equate to me hating lesbians or whatever you said.
No. I was, yes, that is the angle that I was leaning towards, but using a word in a worded situation to make it more sound like you hated the first movie, which you did. You did not have anything good to say on the very first episode for the first movie when we covered it.
I mentioned the part about her being tied up in the phone cord.
You liked the end. That's what, you know what anybody who hates a movie can say? Yeah, there was one part I liked. The end. When it ended. The end. That's... You know I'm right. That's the part you're trying to really dig yourself out of this hole now. Because now I feel like you, as Rob, are sitting there saying, fuck. Webby's probably going to go listen to this first episode now, and he's going to make me listen to a part where I actually do say I hate this movie, and I'm going to be wrong yet again, because you know I'm stubborn enough to do that.
I do not use the word hate. I'm pretty sure I said I didn't like it. I didn't care for it. I didn't say hate. And I never said that I hated lesbians. I said I am uninterested in lesbians, is what I said.
I'm gonna have to get Devin in on this next week.
No,
because when we sat down and when we first watched the episode, maybe that's what I was thinking of. Maybe it was when we sat down and watched it together. You were just like, you completely checked out, and you're like, this movie's boring. All it has to do is lesbians.
Never said it was boring.
I'm gonna
not boring. There was lots of murder in it.
We're gonna have to get Devin in on this.
What I said was I might have said that I hated the fact that they blamed their friends for the murder, but that's not the same as hating the whole movie.
We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. I'll go back and listen. It's fine. I will pinpoint the timestamp, and then next week I'll have everybody go back and listen to the exact timestamp. In fact, if I get really creative, maybe next week I'll just make a little musical melody of how much Rob really detested the first part of this movie. I'll just take all the clips of you putting down the movie and all your gripes with the movie, and I'll put it to some jolly commercial jingle noise. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I don't think I'm that motivated. So, but in any case, Rob hated the first movie, liked the second one. What'd you think of the third one?
I also liked the third one because it's more like a TV show where you have the pilot and you're like, but then because there's more to it, you get more lore and stuff. It actually gets improved.
What kind of person watches the pilot of a show and is like, nah? What kind of shows
Lots
do you
of people?
watch?
I don't know.
What was your thought on the Supernatural pilot? Really?
No.
Fuck you. Yeah, I didn't think so. You can't lie to you. There's another strand to add to the web of lies that Edquist has been spinning this whole week.
There are shows that like Friends. Their pilot episode is kind of it's okay.
What was their pilot episode? Tell us. I don't remember the pilot.
It was the one where Rachel leaves her wedding.
First off, what was the name of the pilot episode?
The pilot episode? The one with the pilot, I think, or something like that.
Oh, alright. I didn't know. I know all the Friends episodes are the one with, or the one where... It's always the one, and then whatever.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure about that. But it's the one where Rachel leaves her husband at the altar and shows up at the coffee shop. It was good, but there's episodes that I enjoyed much more further down the line.
Well, yeah, the show always has to get seasoned. It's got to find its legs. I will say, I'll agree with you to the point where the pilot episode is if the pilot episode is terrible, obviously it's never gonna get up. People are gonna be like, "Oh, this is terrible." Right? I don't know any pilot that I've ever watched where I was like, I don't know, whatever. I usually don't end up watching the show.
Then why do you and Devin have this 3-episode rule? If the pilot's always bang wow.
Well, notice the 3-episode rule doesn't apply when Devin has his anime episodes where he makes me watch anime. I always watch just the first episode of it. Sometimes I get sucked in, sometimes I don't. Like Rising the Shield Hero, phenomenal anime in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
How to Pick Up Girls in Dungeons, great anime. Cowboy Bebop, and I get a lot of flack from this. Not my kind of anime. It's a cult classic anime. Cowboy Bebop is one of those animes where a lot of people. It has a big following. So much so I know they're making a live action one, and I might give that one a try. Whatever. Like I told Devin with that particular show, that one was just all about the art style. I just did not care for that art style. Whereas the other two that I previously mentioned are more almost like video game-esque art styles. You know what I mean? Cowboy Bebop tried to be a little too realistic with their art style. I feel, with the exception of super tall, gangly, pencil-looking motherfuckers. I got the hiccups. But yeah, anyway. So you obviously liked episode 2 and 3 more than 1.
Mm.
Which one did you like better out of 2 or 3?
Hmm. I don't know. I guess 2, but it was pretty close. They were both pretty enjoyable.
Okay. See, I'm gonna go with 3 for me. I think 3 was my favorite one of these series. Um, 2 was just like a. It was a lot like a Jason, like a Friday the 13th movie to me.
Hmm.
Which is fine because of the horror. I don't like horror movies to begin with, but of the horror movies, like I have watched Friday the 13th. I've watched several of them. I always root for Jason. Um, Fuck those campers. Uh, but like I don't know, 3. I feel like 3 was creepier. 3 did a lot more of the explanation of why everything was the way it was.
Hmm.
And then I really enjoyed the fact that we spent 2 movies essentially wondering why things work a certain way to, for me anyway, to have it completely kind of tipped on its head on the third one. Like,
Hmm.
even through the third movie, I was like, "Oh shit, this is why the witch is like controlling this," and you're just like, "Dude, it's not the witch though." like you had to tell me that I was wrong.
Yeah, a
Um,
rare occurrence.
yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. When it comes to horror movies, like I get pulled into like this whole series. If I had to sit down and we made this like one long movie that we all sat down through, I would not have picked up on a lot of the small nuances that, like, say you and Devin pick up on,
Hmm.
because I'm like, oh, that bitch just got stabbed in the spine by a dude wearing a fucking skull mask. Sweet. Like, I get wrapped up in like the murder aspect, like, you
Yeah,
know. Uh, I still feel like some of those killers we didn't actually get to see and learn about.
we didn't. Like, they never talk about the milkman. They don't talk about the kid in the mask with the baseball bat.
I really want to know about like the big motherfucking
Oh,
seven
yeah, the
foot tall
big.
dude with the fucking plague mask, plague doctor mask looking thing.
Yeah, they didn't even mention him until
Nope,
they didn't mention him previous to that at all. I don't remember.
I don't think so. Yeah. All right. So anyway, so yes, Fear Street 1666 takes place in Union, a small settlement, where you get to see. It starts off with like Sarah, who,
Spears. Yeah.
yeah, who was. It's the main girl from the first one who is essentially reliving Sarah Fierce's life or memories. So you see her as Sarah, but it's not really her.
Yeah, like
Um,
all the people from the previous movie, two previous movies take over roles of in the old timey. Like she's Sarah Fierce. Her brother plays Sarah's brother. Her her dead friends play her friends. Uh, Sarah plays the other girl. Or yeah, Sarah. Or
mm,
what's the girl's name?
uh, um, I don't know. I wanted to say Emily, but I don't think that's it.
No,
I don't remember.
Sam. Is it Sam?
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe Sam.
Sam plays the other girl, and then the sheriff Good plays the guy that she's
Solomon.
supposed to be marrying. Yeah,
Yeah.
and all that.
Um, so it starts off with her
Oh,
essentially delivering a litter of pigs.
and the two sisters from the middle movie are there too. It's the two
Oh,
other
yeah,
sisters.
yeah. And then the one who becomes the axe wielding psychopath plays a town drunk.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it starts off with her delivering a litter of pigs. Her dad tells her, because she delivered a litter of like 8 pigs or something like that, and not a single stillborn, that she had a knack for it and she was good luck. Um, and she goes and brings Solomon one, and they talk, and they're supposed to be married or getting married. It's supposed to be like an arranged marriage type thing. But you get the sense that she kind of has feelings for this other girl. Um, And then she goes walking through the town, and they're all like, they all have like this saying, like the moon rises before sunset or something, and
Yeah.
something about eating the land's fruit. I don't remember. But they were gonna go and some of them were gonna go and visit the hag. Uh, I think that's what they call her. Somebody who's exiled essentially uh, for
Yeah.
dark things. Which
And
they
when they
didn't
were
call her a
talking to
witch, but
when they were talking to the adults, they called her the widow.
yeah,
But I think they called her the hag between
yeah.
the teenagers.
So the three girls go and visit her, and she's not there, and they start looking around for these berries, and Sarah finds this book, which I think at this point have we seen it before? I don't recall.
I don't think so.
Well, she finds this book, and it's all about like how to make a deal with the devil, and essentially, you have to willingly extend your hand. Essentially, you have to want to make a deal with the devil to actually do it. But she gets interrupted as she's flipping through the pages of this book by this hag who starts telling her how, she better be careful because the darkness will sink in underneath their skin and eat her from the inside out and blah, blah, blah. And like all this ominous chit chat. And then they run away. She yells at them all to get out. And all the girls run away. And they join back up at like a bonfire party that they're having in the woods. All the younger, I'll say younger teenagers / young adults are having in the woods. And the girl had found, one of them had gotten like a handful of these. They look like blackberries almost. And they each took one, and they were essentially psychedelic drugs. They were just the 1666 version of acid. And they all started getting trippy, and Sarah and the other girl went off and started making out, and they were interrupted because Sarah thought someone was watching them. And if they had gotten caught, they would be, scolded and or burned at the stake for that sort of belief system back in that day. In any case, they go back, and I think it was the next day. The girl, Sarah's friend there, comes to her. The pastor's daughter comes to her and says that her dad's really ill and something's wrong with him. And she goes, and they're both looking at him, and he's just sitting on the edge of the bed, surrounded by flies, staring off at the wall, saying something over and over and over again in gibberish. And then the pastor's wife comes in and essentially like scolds Sarah and throws her to the floor and then kicks her to the curb. What else happens? I kind of want to just jump straight to the pastor locking himself in the fucking meeting hall. I will say Sarah notices a bunch of like moldy bread and moldy apples and bad food. Like there's just a darkness that is kind of coming over the town of Unity.
Yeah, and then the pig eats the babies.
Yeah, so she kills the pig. And eventually the town essentially the pastor locks himself in the meeting hall, like the town hall, with a bunch of other kids, and Solomon comes, and everyone's trying to get through the front door, but it's barred, and Solomon and two other people break into the side door, and he goes in with a pitchfork, and he sees all these people sitting there in the pews, eyeless and dead, and the pastor's up in front of like the what do they call those things?
Pulpit.
A pulpit, and he's just tapping like this little metal rod. It looked like a really small handheld like crowbar, like it had that kind of shape to it. At first, I thought it was a gavel, but it was definitely metal. I don't feel like it was wooden, and it wasn't really shaped like a gavel to me. Um, but he also was eyeless, but he was saying how he sees everything now, and he was just sitting there repeatedly tapping this thing faster and faster. Solomon saw either his eyes or a small pile of eyes, because there was a lot of stuff on the ground there.
Yeah.
I think it was just a small pile of all of their eyes, and eventually everybody busted into the town hall, and you know we find out all these children were killed, and Sarah runs up and sees that her brother was one of them, and the pastor looks over at her with no eyes and immediately steps down off of the little uh, like the step up area, like the staged area, and he goes to attack Sarah, and Solomon ends up stabbing him like in the side with his pitchfork. And then I think, was it then that they kind of ran Sarah off and branded her a witch? Because I know they had a town meeting, and they went through like several people giving like small speeches behind this pulpit thing, about what's happening in this town and what these people think is happening. And finally Solomon stood up and he just kind of yelled, he's like, we have no proof of anything that's happening here. You know, we know that the pastor obviously went crazy, but he's dead now. We have no proof that it was any other thing but that. And then somebody else stood up and said he had proof, and then he mentioned how he saw Sarah and the other girl laying with a demon. You know,
yeah, because he was the one they had insulted at the fire.
Yeah, and through his speech, it got the entire town at that meeting riled up, and everybody started saying, "Oh yeah, I saw Sarah do this. I saw them do this, and they're a witch, and she's a witch, and they're both witches." And the whole town branded them as witches. And Solomon, you could kind of see on his face like, ah, shit. Like, you know, there's no stopping this fucking boulder once this gets rolling. Mm-hmm. You know? And so they end up breaking into like the pastor's house or whatever and taking the daughter. And then they're trying to find Sarah, but she's nowhere to be found. And then Sarah, she's just snooping, like she's sneaking through town. And then she meets with the pastor's daughter. And there's like this moment where it's like, if we can't live how we want to live and be together, then like there's no point in living. And if this town of people who, you know, we were supposed to trust and be friends with are going to brandish us witches, then we might as well be witches. And her plan was to go to the hag's house and try to get that book and essentially become a witch to come back and I guess fucking rue the town. But when she gets to the hag's house, the hag's fucking dead on the floor with her throat slit and the book's gone.
Yep.
From there, she goes straight to Solomon's house.
Yeah, and she's like telling him that she didn't do it, that everyone's lying, and that the widow's dead, and someone took the book, so it has to be someone else, but it wasn't her.
Yeah.
And he says that he believes her. But then a bunch of men come to the door looking for her, so he tells her to hide, and she goes into a back room, and he's trying to like send them off, the people that are looking for Sarah. But they're checking the windows, which in the room she's in, there's a window. So she moves a bookcase and she finds like another crawl space where she crawls down into like a cellar area where there's like roots hanging and stuff. But then there's also like another exit out of there that's like a cave. So she crawls down there and she finds the devil's mark, just like the girls did in the second one when they went underneath the into the caves. So it's the same thing, but it's already there. So obviously she did not make it. So it wasn't Sarah because it's already there underground. And so after the guys leave, she's looking and she sees the pastor's name carved in the wall. His is the only name that's there currently.
Yep, his was the first name.
Yeah.
Was it Cyrus? Cyrus something?
I think so. So then he comes down and she gets startled and they start talking and he's like, oh, with power I can do whatever. I don't remember exactly what he was talking about, but he was like, just trading one life every couple of years for power. And she's like, one life? She's like, he killed a bunch of children. And he's like, so then she like, I don't remember what he says to that, but she's basically like, no, get away. And she like beats him off and runs away.
She stabs him in the stomach with the knife that he made for her.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And then she sprints through the cave system. With him having this gut wound. And we start seeing a lot of the same areas that we saw in the second movie when they were exploring the cave system. And it was you who actually pointed out when we saw like the hole in the ceiling where in the second movie it was the outhouse. Mm-hmm. She started to crawl, and you were like, "Oh, this is where she found this is where they found her hand." So yeah. Something's going to happen to her hand here. And lo and behold, it was. She ended up getting a knife put into her wrist, and then it sliced through. And eventually, he was holding on to her hand, which was barely hanging onto her arm as it was, and trying to stab her. And she managed to get her feet up and kicked him away, and he pulled her hand clean off of her arm. And then she managed to wrap it while continuing to run somewhere else. I think she ended up coming up into the meeting house.
Yeah, through the same grate that in the second one that the girl was kicking to get into the mess hall in the camp. It was the same, except there was a wooden grate this time instead of a metal one.
Yeah. And then when she walked outside, and all the townspeople were just kind of doing their thing, and she was standing on the front steps, handless, kind of trying to catch her bearings, and she saw the pastor's daughter chained over by the well. That's when Solomon came and like grabbed her by the back of the hair and was like, "I found the witch." And obviously the whole town fucking goes up in arms again about Sarah Fierce being a witch. So then they march her off to the hanging tree. And they do like this big wide panned out shot. And this is the part where I'm going to start getting like, this is the only part of the movie, like of the third movie that I didn't like. They do this big wide out pan shot where like there's a big line of all the townsfolk. Some of them having torches, like every fifth or sixth person having a torch, and they're walking in a straight ass line through this big field. And I made a comment to Rob. I was like, "Oh yeah, let's go bring her to the only tree that we can apparently hang somebody from, which is fucking a mile down the road." And they bring her to this tree. They hang her, and like. They're yelling at her to confess and whatnot, which she finally does to essentially save the pastor's daughter. Otherwise, they were going to kill them both. She says she was the witch. She confessed to doing everything. And then when Solomon came up to start wrapping chains around her and put the noose on her and stuff, she essentially cursed Solomon. saying, the truth is going to be your curse. I'm going to follow you everywhere you go. And this is, I will have my revenge on this, essentially. And then they hung her.
Yeah.
And you get to see, like, her actual face, like the actual Sarah throughout this experience, like on and off as well. And then the other girl from the future who is envisioning this, who sees this, kind of wakes up. And that's where we get into essentially the 1994 or whatever it is, part 2. We're back in the future. And Sheriff Good shows up and meets up with the main girl's brother, who then immediately gets grabbed by the girl and pulled into the forest, and they go running. They trick the sheriff into thinking they're behind a tree with a pair of shoes, and then they end up stealing a squad car and leaving, going back to Ziggy's house from part 2.
Yep.
Then they come up with a plan. She fills them all in about how Sarah's not the evil person here, how it's Sheriff Good. And it was essentially all of the goods throughout the ages, starting with Solomon, moving right down the family line, have been doing this in this town. They've been taking up the mantle, making the deals with the devil, feeding it bodies to essentially make their part of the town prosperous and for them to live good lives. As long as it kept, feeding the devil, blood.
Yeah, which is the thing that I had said from the beginning, that it was the good side of town that had made it to deal with the devil, and that's why the bad side is the bad side.
Right. So they come up with this plan about how to deal with everything. And it's essentially Ziggy's original plan for how to deal with her bully from the second movie. They're going to use the bucket of blood and from the movie Carrie, and they're going to try to essentially lure all the psychos to the mall, all the killers. They're going to lock them in the individual stores, and then they're going to get the sheriff to come there. They're going to pour the bucket of blood on the sheriff because the psychos are essentially drawn to the blood. And then they're going to let all the psychos loose and let the psychos deal with the sheriff however they see fit, is the plan. They end up recruiting the guy from the first episode that the brother gives the paperclip to kind of get out of his handcuffs, who I also think is the janitor in the mall.
No, I think the janitor was dead in the first, because she goes to and yells for help to the janitor, and he's dead in one of the chairs at the very beginning. No, I think he's just he just showed up in the second movie, and that's it.
Gotcha. So the plan starts to work. They use, for whatever reason, they use fluorescent paint and make markers and everything everywhere, like black light paint. They have super soakers, filled with bloody water. They have lines of bloody water that were mopped on the floor leading into each store. And then there's the hanging tree, which is in the central part of the mall, which we find out in the second movie. Now, my issue here was, and I might be talking myself out of it now, my issue, though, was this cave system that led from, the heart to the hanging tree, or to the town, was pretty much underneath the town. And then the hanging tree, when we watched it back in the 1666 version, they seemed like they walked a really long way to get to this tree from this town. But in the mall, there were tunnels going from the mall underground into the tunnels.
Yeah.
And
So it was because she went into the same grate that they went through in the mess hall and the meeting house
and
to
that was
get
in
into
the
the
mall.
caves, and that was in the mall, which was very close to obviously the tree was in the center of the mall. So
yeah, so this mall must be humongous. Not to mention, these caves also led up into Sheriff Good's house, which also insanity. Like, how big are these caves, really?
Yeah, because when they came out in his house at the end, I was like, the sheriff lives next to the mall?
Yeah. I mean, he's supposed to live in Sunnyvale. Like, I mean, that's a whole different part of the town. Unless this is just a really small town. Like, Sunnyvale and Shadyside are just, like, literally, like...
Teeny tiny.
Yeah. Like, I don't understand what else could be, like, why that is. But either way, the hanging tree was way too close to the whole cave system. Anyway, all the monsters come, all the psychos, all the killers. They lure them into the malls, into the stores. They gate them in. There was the milkman, the axe guy, and then like the 7 foot tall motherfucker. And then Sheriff Good comes, and Ziggy confronts him underneath the tree, and then pulls a rope and spills blood all over him, and then she starts to run, but the sheriff catches her, and essentially gets her all bloody too. Says, essentially like, oh, if you're going to take me, she's going to die too, blah, blah, blah. They let all the killers loose. Oh, yeah, the skull knife killer, the Scream Ghost guy was there too. He runs up actually behind the sheriff and like stabs him in the back. And that makes him let go of Ziggy.
Oh, did you mention? I just remembered the other two cops showed up before.
No,
they trapped the killers and got murdered before they managed to trap them in the stores.
They got ganked. Ghostface killed one, and then Milkman like repeatedly stabbed the other. In any case, I don't remember how they got. I don't remember how they got free. I know the milkman ended up getting a hold of Ziggy again at one point, because he was the one who stabbed her a bunch as a kid in the second movie.
Yeah, well, they started fighting. He started fighting with the sheriff was fighting with the ghost face, and he was down on the ground, just barely holding the knife away from him. But the other one grabbed Ziggy, so what's her face cut her hand open to draw them towards her.
That's right.
Away from Ziggy.
That's right. And then I think the sheriff ended up getting away and running through a door.
And she went chasing after him.
They realized that they were going to start losing the psychopath's attentions, so they squirted the milkman with the super soaker full of blood to cover him in blood. And he just kind of looked disgusted at the fact. But then they all three started fighting each other because they all started getting squirted with the blood.
Yeah.
And then the psychos just kind of started killing each other. Until they ran out of blood in the super soakers. The psychos were dead. And then you hear the baseball bat clunk, and then you hear the whistling and the humming start. And there was the two more psychos. There was the little kid with the baseball bat and the weird mask. Yep. And then there was Ruby, who was the girl that we also never really learned about. We didn't learn about either of these two very much. And
yeah, but I mean, it didn't, like, their backstories didn't really matter that much because they were basically just people that got taken over by the demon.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not, like, their backstories don't really matter to that point where, they're like, oh, this is why they went crazy. It's like they went crazy because they got possessed by the devil. So what they were before doesn't really have any bearing on that.
True. I know Ziggy took the gun and, the fucking Ruby started fucking beating the piss out of the younger brother. Broke his arm, and was getting ready to fucking kill him, and then got shot in the dome by Ziggy using the sheriff's pistol. Uh, and then the whole time the sheriff was running through the caves with a gut wound. The main girl was running after the sheriff, and then Sam, who was like the current possessed one, went running after the main girl, whose name I keep forgetting. But anyway, they all kind of meet up in the chamber where like the big pulsing heart is, and Sam tackles the girl, starts choking her out, and then starts remembering who she is a little bit. But at this point, the main girl had lost the knife. She had like the buck knife or whatever. He let her. She eased up on her enough where the main girl like slammed her head into a rock and like knocked her out for a little bit, and then got up and started confronting the sheriff, who stabbed her in the chest or in the gut. But then I don't know, they were wrestling or they were fighting, and she ended up taking his hand and placing it on the heart, I think. And that's where like all of the victims who have ever been affected by this flooded into his mind. You're muted.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, and they start basically driving him crazy. Dina is the name of the.
Oh, Dina, yeah. And they all drive him crazy until finally Sarah shows up, I believe. Right? The ghost of Sarah Fierce.
Yeah.
And like rips his eyes out or some shit. I don't remember how she kills him. But either way, she kills him. And as soon as she does, all the psychos upstairs just kind of vanish into dust.
Yeah.
And the heart kind of like gurgles down into the ground. The curse and this, psychosis is lifted off of Sam. And essentially, hey, job well done. The curse has been lifted. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, all the names disappear from the walls.
Yep, all the weird devil pattern disappears from the floor. They walk out of that chamber and up into Sheriff Good's house. They walk out the front door and they see somebody back out of their driveway in Sunnyvale and get T-boned by a trash truck. So now the bad shit has started happening in Sunnyvale.
Oh, you forgot the best part, her flak jacket.
Oh, yeah, when she got stabbed, she didn't actually get stabbed because she made the poor man's flak jacket of a bunch of romance novels duct taped to her torso.
Yep.
Books have been being used to, stop stab wounds for a long time. It's been done in other horror movies, I know that. So yeah, and then essentially, like, the little brother goes back to school, finds out who that person is that he's been talking to on the computer this whole, movie. Sam and Dina go and have, like, a picnic on top of Sarah Fierce's grave, which is not a super romantic place to have a picnic, but I guess.
Yeah, and they carve the thing into the rock over her grave, though. So Sarah Fierce, the first shady sider.
Yeah. And that's essentially the movie. And then, like, throughout the credits, it shows you scenes of, like, the cave, and, like, there's, like, the little evidence cards and stuff underneath the book. And then the very last thing you see is it zooms in on the evil devil tome. And then a hand reaches into this frame and grabs the book and leaves with the book. And we don't know who it is.
Yeah.
I really hope they don't make more of these. This was good for like a 3-parter, but I don't know if I can handle another 3 parts. So.
One of the parts that I really liked too, I forgot about, was when Dina and Josh just drive up to to Martin when he's outside. They're like, "Hey, we're gonna murder Sheriff Good. You want it?" And he's like, "Okay."
Yeah, he's like, "Let me get my jacket." I mean, he did tell the little brother that he owed him. Might as well cash in that favor. So yeah, we're running about 50 minutes now. We talked about that a lot longer than I thought we would.
Mm-hmm.
I think we covered most of it. All
Yep.
in all, again, I wasn't too thrilled with the first movie. The second movie was better, and the third movie was even better than that, in my opinion. Um, on a scale from 1 to 10 overall, I'm going to throw it out there as like a 5. There were some twists in there for me. It held my interest enough where I watched it. Um, and I wasn't falling asleep or, playing on my phone while watching it, things like that. So I'll give it like a 5. I probably won't ever watch it again. Uh, it's a good one-time watch. Um, yeah, I mean, I do recommend that people watch it. I mean, why not? Especially if you have nothing else to do and you want something on in the background while you're doing something, throw this on. You might find yourself getting sucked into it. What would you give it for a rating? Matilda, you're not supposed to be underneath my desk. You know this. What are you doing?
So I don't. I think she doesn't still feel good.
Well, she can't be puking underneath my desk.
I think she just wants to be near people.
Okay, I'll pet you. What
Uh,
would you rate this movie?
I would probably give it a 7
Oh, okay.
if you're all three combined.
You're trying to make up for the fact that you hated the first one, huh?
Well, like if you didn't include the first, I'd probably give 2 and 3 an 8 or 9. But if you combine in the first movie all three together, I'd say a 7.
Okay. All right. So would you recommend other people watch it then?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Like you said, I probably won't watch it again, but it was a good. It was entertaining.
Rob, when we're done with SU, do you want to sit down and rewatch the whole thing?
No,
Okay.
I just said I probably wouldn't watch it again.
All right. I just, you never know.
Maybe years down the line when I've forgotten what's happened. But
I'll never
not right.
forget what happened.
That's true. I won't either.
6 hours of my life I'll never get back. Um. All right. Well, with that, do we have a science corner? Did you prep anything for this?
I have a science fiction corner.
No, we're not talking about this.
Question.
We're not asking. We're not talking about the goddamn Justice League.
A listener asked me.
Yeah,
who
me.
was the
I'm not a
founding
listener.
member.
I'm sorry, but I'm not a listener. All right. Yeah. Might as well just answer my goddamn question. It won't be a conversation topic.
All right.
So, listeners, just so you know, before we decided to record SU, we were watching Smallville, and they mentioned like the beginning of the Justice League and how in Smallville anyway, Oliver Queen kind of starts it. So then that got me to thinking, and I didn't know the answer right off the top of my head, so I asked Rob, and he didn't, so he's looking it up. I asked him who actually was like the founding member. Like everybody kind of knows, like yeah, it was kind of like Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman that I guess kind of founded it. But
well,
like,
actually,
whose idea was it?
I mean, I haven't found specifically like who was like, hey, but apparently it's the origin story is that Earth was being attacked by a group of aliens, and then a competing group of aliens wanted to beat them at conquering Earth. So there were two groups of aliens trying to conquer Earth. So Aquaman, Batman, The Flash, the Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter, Superman, and Wonder Woman all came together to fight back this threat. And there was one of them that was able to defeat each of them separately, but they banded together to fight that one, and then that's where the idea came from that they could work together, and that's even though they didn't call it the Justice League at the time, that's where they got the idea that they could work together to combat larger threats. So supposedly that's what it was, but not any one of them is given credit for the idea. But the 7 founding members were the Green Lantern, the Flash, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Martian Manhunter. So
Could have probably done without Aquaman. Listen, I don't want to hear it, listeners. We've already talked about Aquaman and my distaste for him. During the whole bracket playoffs thing. Anyway, maybe we'll have to do an Aquaman episode. Go through all the iterations of Aquaman at some point. Devin would have to head that one. I know Devin likes Aquaman.
Yep.
All right. Well, hey, that's it for this week, everybody. Rob, where can people find you on the internets?
You can find me on Twitter at Confessor_X and on Twitch at twitch.tv/ConfessorX.
And as always, everybody, you guys can follow me on Twitter at JaxForestWalker, all one word, on Twitch at DMWebby, and on eBay at Looking for Devin. I miss you. Get well soon. It was a really long handle. It was hard. It's kind of hyphenated and abbreviated, but I don't want to do that. So until next time, everybody, thank you for listening. We love you. Stay safe, and fuck Booster Gold.
Fuck Booster Gold.
I don't have the outro music ready. Here it is. Next time somebody asks me why I hate Booster Gold so much, I'm just gonna go, Thief Baggins!
Feeling.
Da-da-da-da.